The Alpha estate sprawled like a fortress beneath the silvered moon, its stone walls cold yet regal, guarding secrets whispered in the wind. Shadows shifted along the corridors, flickering candlelight catching the dust motes dancing in the air. And among those shadows moved a girl who no one truly saw. She was small, unassuming, her movements careful, deliberate, as though each step could erase her from the world entirely. She swept the grand hallway with the precision of a ghost, her hands brushing over polished wood and carved banisters, yet she did so silently, unnoticed. Her name, if anyone bothered to remember it, mattered little. To the pack, she was merely a servant, meek and quiet, obedient without question, and that suited her perfectly. Yet beneath her soft exterior, a storm waited. Her fingers trembled, not from fear but from the coiled energy she had learned to cage, the pulse of a wolf that refused to stay hidden. She had been born into a legacy of strength, a lineage that whispered of destiny and power. But here, in this vast house of commanding figures, she wore invisibility like armor. No one must know, not yet. Her eyes, sharp and aware, flicked to the doors at the far end of the hall. The Alpha himself would be arriving soon, tall and imposing, commanding not just the estate, but every life tethered to it. His presence was magnetic, even from a distance. It stirred something deep inside her chest, a mixture of awe, curiosity, and the faintest tremor of longing. A tray of silver goblets rattled in her grasp as she turned a corner too quickly. A guard glanced at her but said nothing, only lifting his brow in mild annoyance before returning to his post. She exhaled softly, a silent laugh that no one heard. They all believed her fragile. They all believed she existed only to serve. But the flicker in her amber eyes, hidden beneath lashes that brushed the tops of her cheeks, told a different story. The estate's hallways hummed with secrets, with whispers of dominance and hierarchy. Every glance she stole, every shadow she passed, she measured with care. Even the Alpha, with his piercing gaze that seemed to cut through lies and pretenses alike, had yet to sense the truth of her. That truth, buried, coiled, dangerous, waited patiently for its moment. Tonight, as the wind whispered against the tall windows, carrying the scent of pine and distant danger, she allowed herself the briefest of smiles. They all underestimated her, they always did, and when the time came, she would rise from the shadows not as the timid servant they knew, but as something far more powerful, far more inevitable. And somewhere, deep in the corridors of the estate, the Alpha moved, unaware that the destiny that had been stalking him for years was already walking beside him, silent, patient, and untouchable, for now. Her steps continued, soft yet purposeful, blending with the night. No one noticed, no one ever did, until she chose to be noticed. The moon had risen higher now, spilling silver across the estate grounds, brushing the edges of the forest that bordered the Alpha's domain. The air was thick with the scent of pine, damp earth, and something darker. The girl moved along the outer hallways, her hands lightly brushing the cold stone as if drawing strength from it. She thought she was alone. No, one noticed her, as always. But tonight was different. A sudden ripple of motion in the tree line froze her mid-step. Low growls, guttural and warning, pierced the still night. Rogue wolves outsiders, unpredictable, dangerous, had breached the estate perimeter. Her pulse jumped, an instinct sharp and unyielding, flared within her chest. Before she could think, her wolf answered the call. A surge of power rolled through her veins, warmth and strength mingling with adrenaline. She didn't question it. She moved. A pair of rogues leapt over the fencing with ease, their eyes gleaming with hunger. Servants screamed in the distance, the sound echoing off stone walls, but she was already there, standing between the beasts and the first of the guards who had rushed to intercept them. Her hands rose, graceful and lethal, and in one fluid motion, she sent the nearest wolf sprawling, its limbs twisting unnaturally as if the night itself had reached out to strike. The Alpha had been walking the perimeter, his keen senses detecting disturbance before anyone else. He arrived just in time to see her stance, steady, unflinching, and impossibly strong. His eyes narrowed, disbelief flashing across his expression. The servant he had barely noticed moments before was not what she seemed. She fought with a precision that spoke of training, power, and instinct fused into one unstoppable force. Each motion was fluid, almost elegant, yet deadly. The rogue wolves hesitated, confusion flickering across their wild eyes. One lunged, and she sidestepped with a movement so quick it was nearly a blur, sending it tumbling into the stone wall behind. The alpha's jaw tightened. The pull toward her, the strange recognition in the pit of his gut, had him forgetting all caution. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice a growl that cut through the chaos. She didn't answer. Her focus was absolute, her wolf guiding her every move. When the last rogue fell to the ground, snarling but subdued, she turned, hair falling over her face, chest heaving. I'm just trying to protect." Her voice faltered, tiny and uncertain, but the fire in her amber eyes betrayed her words. The alpha stepped closer, every inch of him radiating command, power, and curiosity. "You've never shown this before," he said, disbelief and something sharper beneath his words. "Why?" Her gaze dropped. She had learned the art of hiding not just from him, but from the world, because it's safer if they think I'm nothing. He stared at her, and for a heartbeat, the alpha saw not a servant, not a shadow, but someone extraordinary. His wolf, ancient and territorial, stirred uncomfortably at the presence of her power, the connection he couldn't name. "You're lying," he said softly, almost to himself, "and yet, I can feel it." The forest returned to its uneasy silence, save for the faint whimper of the wounded rogues. The estate had survived the attack, but nothing would be the same. Not for him, not for her. And in that brief, electrifying moment, destiny stirred, awakening something neither of them could yet control. She walked away, shoulders tense, hands shaking slightly, not from fear, but from the thrill of her own strength. Behind her, the alpha's gaze lingered, sharp, unrelenting, and full of questions he dared not speak aloud. For the first time, she realized hiding would not be enough. Someone, or something, was beginning to notice. The estate lay in uneasy quiet after the rogue attack, its guards still patrolling, eyes sharp, senses taut, but she could not rest. The adrenaline of the night still pulsed in her veins, and deeper than that, the wolf inside her stirred with a restless hunger. She had tried to live as a shadow, as someone small and insignificant, but the night had a way of drawing out truths that daylight could not hide. She slipped from the back door, careful to avoid the patrolling guards, and into the dense forest beyond. The moon hung low and full, spilling silver across the pine needles and illuminating her path. Every step brought a tremor of anticipation, a pull she had long tried to ignore. Her wolf, ancient and powerful, strained at its cage, whispering secrets of heritage and destiny she had yet to fully understand. Pausing in a small clearing, she closed her eyes and let the world fade. The wind teased her hair, carrying scents of earth, pine, and him. Even at a distance, the alpha's presence lingered like a shadow on the edge of her senses. A shiver ran down her spine, not from fear, but from recognition, a deep, instinctual pull she could not name. "Why now?" she murmured to herself, voice barely more than a breath. Her claws flexed against her palms as the wolf within pressed against the confines of her human form. She had spent years taming it, hiding it, pretending to be weak. And yet, under this silver light, pretense felt like a lie too heavy to carry. From the shadows, a movement drew her attention. The alpha, he had followed her, silent as the night, eyes reflecting the moonlight, sharp and unyielding. He said nothing at first, letting her reveal what she could not conceal. Her amber eyes opened, locking with his, and for a moment the forest seemed to hold its breath. His gaze was magnetic, pulling at something primal in her, stirring the wolf that recognized him even before she could name him. "You're hiding more than strength," he said, voice low, almost a growl. "Something ancient, something I should have sensed long ago." She swallowed, heart pounding. The pull she felt toward him was undeniable, fierce and confusing. I have to control it," she said, gesturing to the subtle tremor of her hands. If anyone saw, Her voice faltered, but her wolf's longing pressed against her ribs, demanding release. He stepped closer, and the air between them thickened with unspoken tension, desire, and warning. His wolf stirred at the edges, restless, sensing the bond he could not yet name. "You can't hide who you are forever," he said, voice tight with curiosity and something else, possessiveness, perhaps, or longing. "Not from me, not from anyone." She shivered, the truth of her secret brushing against the edge of the world, ready to leap free. "Then I suppose." She whispered, "I've been waiting for the night to decide for me." The moonlight bathed them both, silver and cold, yet electric with the promise of revelation. The alpha's eyes never left hers, sharp, questioning, and dangerously intense. In that moment, under the full moon, her wolf stirred fully, though just beneath the surface, feeling the connection, sensing the mate that destiny had already begun to pull toward her. And though neither of them spoke it aloud, the unspoken truth hummed between them. Something ancient, inevitable, and powerful had begun, and the night would not wait for pretenses any longer. The forest seemed to whisper in agreement, and the moon bore silent witness to a secret that would soon shatter the careful masks they both wore. The next morning dawned cold and sharp, the estate humming with the residual tension from the night's attack. Servants moved briskly, whispers threading through the grand halls like silent warnings, but she kept her head down, silent as ever. She had learned long ago that attention brought questions, and questions led to discovery. But some forces could not be avoided. In the great dining hall, a careless remark shattered her careful composure. One of the newer pack members, a burly man with arrogance in his gait, sneered openly. "I still don't see why the Alpha keeps a fragile little thing like you around," he said, loud enough for those nearest to hear. "Does she even do anything besides clean and shuffle papers?" Her hands clenched at her sides, nails biting into her palms. Her instinct screamed, warning her wolf to rise, to show the arrogance that dared insult her. But she swallowed the urge, bowing her head as though nothing had happened. That was when the Alpha's eyes, sharp, piercing, impossibly intense, found hers. And something in him snapped. The room seemed to hold its breath as he rose from his seat, every step deliberate, his presence radiating authority and wrath. "Enough," he said, his voice low, cold, and cutting. The man faltered, realizing he had triggered a storm he could not survive. "Do you dare insult someone under my roof?" The Alpha growled, his gaze like molten steel. "Do you think weakness is something I tolerate?" The pack member's bravado crumbled. The Alpha's presence was overwhelming, power incarnate, a predator who demanded respect. But it wasn't just authority that crackled in the air. There was something personal, something dangerous, in the way the Alpha's gaze lingered on her. "You will apologize," he continued, voice icy, every word measured yet lethal. "And you will remember, no one here is as insignificant as they appear." She dared to look up, meeting his gaze. There was fire there, not anger at her, but something far more complicated. Something possessive, protective, and almost impossible to name. Her chest constricted, heart hammering, not from shame, but from the sharp, thrilling pull she felt every time he looked at her. The offender stammered an apology, voice shaking. The tension did not dissipate immediately. The Alpha's eyes never left hers, unrelenting, demanding, and questioning all at once. She could feel the unspoken words vibrating between them. "I see you. I know there's more." The room slowly returned to its normal rhythm, whispers replaced by cautious glances. But the energy between them remained charged, electric, and dangerous. She wanted to speak, to protest, to run, but her wolf reminded her of the raw power coiled beneath her ribs, the strength she had hidden for so long, and now even the Alpha, with all his dominance, had glimpsed it. Later, in the quiet of the servants' quarters, she pressed her forehead to her palms. Her chest still burned, not from anger at the insult, but from the storm she had glimpsed in his eyes, the bond stirring, the connection undeniable. He had no idea how close he had come to uncovering her truth. Yet even as fear and desire tangled within her, she knew one thing. The Alpha's wrath had been a warning, a spark, and perhaps an invitation. The fire had been lit, and destiny, patient for so long, had begun its relentless approach. The estate was quieter than usual that evening, the sun dipping low and spilling molten gold across the sprawling grounds. She moved through the kitchens, carrying a tray of tea to the Alpha's study, her steps measured, careful to avoid drawing too much attention. Yet with every glance he cast in her direction, every subtle shift of his posture, the world around them seemed to constrict. The air between them was heavy, electric, and unbearably intimate. He had summoned her, not for punishment, not for duties, but for something else entirely, a conversation, though the weight behind it promised far more than words. He gestured for her to sit, and she obeyed, tray clinking softly against the polished wood. "You handled yourself well," he said, voice low, almost velvet, yet laced with a tension that made her pulse quicken. "Last night, you didn't just protect the estate. He paused, as if searching for the words that even he could not name. She met his gaze, trying to steady the tremor in her hands. "I only did what I had to," she murmured, deliberately avoiding the storm simmering in his amber eyes. "It's nothing extraordinary," but it was. He knew it. His wolf stirred beneath the surface, restless, drawn to hers, sensing something forbidden yet inevitable. Their proximity, so ordinary in another setting, now felt loaded with energy neither of them could fully control. A flicker of movement, a hand brushing against hers as she passed him the tea, was enough to ignite a spark that shot straight through her chest. She felt it, sharp and insistent, the pull that destiny had whispered about, the bond that she had fought so long to ignore. "You're lying," he said softly, leaning back in his chair, eyes narrowing in fascination. "Not about the attack. About yourself. There's more, isn't there?" She swallowed, heart pounding. How could she explain that beneath her quiet exterior, a wolf roared with life and longing? That every instinct within her recognized him, drew toward him, even as her human mind screamed caution. Her voice faltered, but her eyes did not waver from his. Some truths are dangerous. His gaze softened, yet there was an undercurrent of warning, possessiveness, and hunger. Then, why do I feel them anyway? The question hung in the room like smoke, curling around them, wrapping their senses in heat and tension. She realized that proximity was no longer neutral. It was a test, a temptation, a forbidden connection neither could ignore. They sat there, the space between them charged with unspoken desire, silent recognition, and the faintest tremor of a bond that could not be denied. The world outside the study ceased to exist. There was only the pull, the tension, the inevitability of what neither dared speak aloud. And though she tried to maintain control, tried to remind herself of her disguise, her wolf stirred impatiently beneath her ribs. She could feel him too, alpha and predator, drawn to her like gravity, sensing the mate he did not yet understand. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine what might happen if the world outside this room no longer mattered, and somewhere deep inside, she knew that imagining it was the first step toward surrender. First light of dawn spilled into the estate, painting the stone walls with pale gold. The morning was deceptively calm, the air carrying a faint chill that hinted at things yet to come. She moved quietly through the halls, careful as ever, but a sense of unease pressed at the edges of her thoughts. Something had shifted since the night of the rogue attack and the Alpha's scrutiny. His gaze haunted her more than she cared to admit, and the wolf inside her stirred with a restless hunger she could no longer ignore. The quiet of the study was broken by a soft knock at the door. She froze, instincts alert. Visitors were rare, and unexpected ones rarer still. When she opened it, she found a woman standing there, all regal with silver, streaked hair and eyes that seemed to pierce straight through her soul. The visitor's presence alone radiated authority, yet it carried an air of gentle knowing, as though she had stepped from another time. "You are, not who you appear to be," the woman said softly, her voice threading through the room like a melody. "I've come because your wolf is destined for greatness." Her heart stuttered. She had heard whispers in dreams, in fleeting visions of a past she barely remembered, but she had buried them under careful layers of disguise. Now they clawed their way back, tugging at her, demanding acknowledgement. "I don't understand," she whispered, her fingers curling into the folds of her apron. "I'm just a servant, that's all I am." The woman's eyes softened but did not waver. "Do not lie to yourself. The blood that runs through you is old, powerful, and entwined with a legacy few dare to speak of. You hide your strength because you fear it, but your destiny will not be denied." A shiver ran through her, not from fear but from recognition, as though her very soul resonated with the truth in those words. The wolf inside her stirred, coiling and stretching, pressing against the cage she had so carefully constructed. Before she could speak, the alpha appeared in the doorway, his presence commanding yet tinged with curiosity. His eyes, sharp and calculating, flicked between her and the mysterious woman. "Who is this?" he demanded, suspicion and possessiveness threading every word. The woman turned toward him, her gaze steady. "She is more than you know, Alpha, more than anyone has dared to see, her lineage, her power. It is tied to the very foundation of this pack, and the bond she carries. Yours is ancient." The Alpha stiffened, a low growl rumbling in his chest. Ancient bond. His eyes softened, but there was an edge of warning, of desire restrained. He studied her, as if trying to reconcile the quiet servant with the force he had glimpsed in the forest, in the attack, in her amber gaze. She swallowed, caught between fear and exhilaration. The truth she had hidden for so long threatened to unravel everything. The mask she wore, the fragile safety of invisibility, and the dangerous pull she felt toward the Alpha. The woman's voice cut through the tension like a whisper of prophecy. "You cannot hide forever. The world is stirring, and those who wish you harm already sense your power. You must choose, continue in shadows, or step into the destiny waiting for you." The Alpha's hand twitched toward her, an unspoken claim lingering in the air. She felt it, his desire, his protective instinct, and perhaps something deeper, something that had recognized her before she could name it herself. The wolf in her chest growled softly, patient and relentless. The whispers of the past had found her, and with them a new urgency, one that would not be ignored. And as the first rays of sun touched her face, she realized the fragile disguise she had built was beginning to crumble, leaving her exposed, and undeniably, dangerously seen. The estate grounds buzzed with anticipation. Today was the day of the pack challenge, a test of skill, strength, and dominance that every member awaited with both excitement and trepidation. The Alpha stood at the center of the training arena, his presence radiating authority, power, and unspoken expectation. The pack members lined up, their eyes fierce, their muscles coiled, ready to prove themselves. She watched from the sidelines, hands clenched, heart pounding. She had avoided attention for so long, hidden behind the mask of servitude, but today, circumstances demanded more. The rogue attack weeks ago had shaken the Alpha's confidence in the pack, and tension simmered. Her wolf stirred beneath her skin, sensing danger, sensing opportunity, sensing the pull that destiny had laid out for her. The first skirmish began, chaotic and fast, a blur of claws and teeth. Pack members collided, growls and shouts echoing off the stone walls. She remained still, observing, until a commotion near the far end caught her attention. One of the younger pack members, reckless and cocky, had underestimated a challenger and was on the verge of being overwhelmed. Her wolf's growl erupted in her chest, sharp and insistent. Without thinking, she surged forward, a blur of motion, and intervened. The strength that had lain dormant for so long broke free like wildfire. She moved with precision, skill, and lethal grace, overpowering the aggressor with movements that left the pack staring in stunned silence. The Alpha's gaze followed her, sharp and incredulous. He had seen glimpses before, her courage during the rogue attack, her uncanny instincts. But this was something else entirely. Her power, fluid and undeniable, radiated from her in waves, impossible to ignore. The fight escalated as rival wolves lunged at her. Her wolf responded instinctively, heightening her senses, sharpening her reflexes, guiding her every strike. She moved like a shadow and a storm all at once, each motion a testament to hidden lineage, to the blood that pulsed through her veins. The pack froze, collectively sensing the raw force she wielded. The alpha's jaw tightened, a mixture of awe, shock, and possessive fury twisting in his expression. He stepped forward, a low growl rumbling from his chest. "Enough," he barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. She stopped, chest heaving, eyes glinting amber in the sunlight, wolfish energy radiating from her in an aura that could not be denied. The pack members stared at her, a mixture of fear, awe, and curiosity in their eyes. The servant they had all dismissed was gone, replaced by someone far greater, far more powerful than any of them could have imagined. The alpha's gaze held hers, sharp, claiming, almost feral. "You, what are you?" he demanded, voice tight with disbelief and unspoken longing. Her lips parted, but she said nothing, letting the silence speak. Her wolf growled softly beneath the surface, a deep, rumbling promise. She was no longer hidden. She was no longer the meek servant. The truth of her strength, her destiny, and her bond with him had begun to reveal itself, and there was no turning back. The pack watched, tense and silent, as she stood in the center of the arena, every muscle coiled, every nerve alive. And somewhere deep in the alpha's chest, a pulse of recognition, of possessiveness, surged. The bond between them, subtle but undeniable, throbbed in the air, demanding acknowledgement. For the first time, she felt the exhilarating, terrifying taste of power unleashed, not just her own, but the power that destiny had promised. And as the alpha took a step closer, his presence consuming, she knew the game had changed. Shadows, secrets, and pretenses no longer mattered. Her hidden power had awakened, and so had the alpha's claim. The estate felt different in the days following the pack challenge. Whispers floated like shadows through the halls. Eyes lingered where they should not, and tension threaded every conversation. Her display of power had not gone unnoticed, and while some were in awe, others were not so easily impressed. Jealousy is a dangerous thing in a pack, and one member in particular had already begun weaving a web of lies. Cashin, a wolf who had long eyed her with suspicion and barely concealed resentment, moved through the estate with practiced ease, whispering to anyone who would listen. "She's not who she claims to be," he murmured in corridors, voices lowered and cautious. "She's hiding something, maybe dangerous. How can we trust a servant with the alpha's safety?" By the time she caught wind of it, the venom had already spread. The pack's energy shifted around her, cold stares, sidelong glances, and subtle exclusion. Even the youngest members who had cheered for her in the arena now paused uncertainly when she passed. The alpha, sensing the disturbance, confronted her in the solitude of the training grounds, his voice tight, loaded with both anger and protective instinct. "Do you know what is happening?" His eyes were stormy, piercing into her very soul. "There are whispers, rumors, lies, and I do not know if I can. I know." She interrupted softly, her voice steady despite the tightening in her chest. "Cashin, he wants to undermine me, make me seem unworthy, even dangerous." Her wolf growled low, warning her alpha, restless and impatient. "He thinks he can divide us." His jaw clenched and the growl in his chest deepened. "No one undermines my pack. No one touches what is mine," he said, voice dangerous, possessive. He stepped closer, proximity charged with the tension of desire and fury, and for a heartbeat, the world shrank to only the two of them. "Do they understand what you are?" She shook her head, amber eyes glinting with a mixture of frustration and longing. "They never will, not yet. I hide it for their safety, and mine." He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his dark hair, struggling to reconcile his growing desire with the chaotic storm around them. His wolf growled again, sharp and low, sensing the bond between them stirring in ways neither could ignore. And yet, even hidden, even restrained, "You are mine," he said, almost reluctantly, almost a warning. Her chest tightened at the words, heart pounding in tandem with the wolf that surged beneath her ribs. The whispers of betrayal outside the training grounds, the envy and lies, all seemed to fade under the magnetic pull of his claim. But danger was never far. Cashin had struck a nerve in the pack, and a subtle fracture had begun to form. Trust, once solid, was now tentative, fragile. She realized that her deception, her careful disguise, had made her vulnerable, not just to external enemies, but to those who once shared her loyalty, the Alpha's hand brushed hers, small and fleeting, yet deliberate. His gaze locked on hers, unyielding, protective, demanding. "No one betrays you, not while I breathe," he promised. And though the wolves of envy and deceit circled, waiting for an opening, neither of them could deny the undeniable pull of the bond that was awakening, dangerous, forbidden, yet impossible to resist. The storm within the pack was growing, but the storm between them had already erupted. The forest around the estate roared with menace as dusk fell. Shadows stretched long, and the scent of danger hung heavy in the arrival shifters had arrived, their presence aggressive, calculated, and hungry. The pack had sensed the threat hours before, but now it was too late for caution. The battle had come to them. She ran alongside the Alpha, heart hammering, senses ablaze. The wind whipped through her hair, carrying the scent of pine, blood, and wild adrenaline. Her wolf surged within her, strong, fierce, impossible to ignore. Every step, every breath was sharpened by instinct, by the primal pull toward him. The Alpha, who was no longer merely a figure of authority, but a force entwined with her very essence. The first wave of attackers struck like a storm, claws and teeth flashing. She moved with fluid precision, each motion instinctive, lethal, her strength astonishing even herself. She had trained in shadows, hidden her power, but now it flowed freely, a river of fury and grace, protecting the Alpha and the pack she had come to claim as her own. He fought beside her, a storm of darkness and power, and their movements aligned as if their wolves danced in tandem. Instincts intertwined, unspoken commands shared in the silent language of predator and mate. Every time his eyes found hers, a shiver of recognition passed between them, a bond raw, undeniable, and electrifying. A rival lunged at the Alpha from behind, but she intercepted in a heartbeat, knocking the attacker to the ground with a force that left the pack momentarily speechless. His gaze snapped to hers, a mixture of relief, admiration, and something far more dangerous. Desire tempered by fierce possessiveness. "You should never hide," he growled, voice low, almost a warning. She only gave a sharp nod, her focus never leaving the battle, yet her pulse quickened at the heat in his eyes. Every clash, every strike was a test of strength, yes, but also a dance of proximity, of tension, of unspoken connection. The battle raged on, the forest alive with the roar of wolves and the clash of rivals. She felt the world narrow until it existed only between them, the Alpha and his mate, fighting side by side, their bond pulsing in the heat of conflict. When the last of the intruders fell, panting and broken, the clearing was silent except for the sound of labored breathing and the occasional low growl of caution. Her hands were bloodied, heart racing, wolf still thrumming beneath her ribs. And yet, despite the chaos, the danger, the exhaustion, her eyes found his. He stepped closer, and she felt the magnetic pull, the unspoken claim of mate to mate, wolf to wolf. "Do you understand now?" he asked, voice rough with both relief and desire. "Do you feel it?" She nodded, amber eyes glinting in the moonlight, breath-catching. "I do," she whispered, more than I ever could have imagined. He closed the distance between them, their foreheads touching, breaths mingling, hearts hammering in synchrony. The bond, long denied, long hidden, had ignited fully in the heart of chaos, unbreakable, undeniable. And as the forest sighed around them, wounded and watchful, she realized that nothing could stand between them now. Not enemies, not lies, not even the secrets she still carried. Their wolves had recognized each other, their hearts had followed, and in the eye of the storm, destiny had finally found its mate. The estate was silent now, the aftermath of the battle settling like dust over the grounds. The pack tended to wounds, mended fences, and whispered among themselves, but she felt none of it. Her body still thrummed with adrenaline, and her wolf pulsed beneath her skin, restless, impatient, and demanding acknowledgement. The Alpha found her in the quiet of the training yard, his presence sudden and consuming. He didn't call her. He didn't announce himself. He simply stepped into the shadows where she stood, the air between them heavy, charged with tension. "Enough hiding," he said, voice low, rough with emotion. His amber eyes burned into hers, piercing, unyielding. I've watched you, protected you, wondered, suspected, and I will not endure lies any longer. Her chest tightened. She had long feared this moment, the moment when he would demand the truth she had fought to conceal for so many years. I can't, she started, but he cut her off with a sharp step closer, closing the space between them, dominance and desire radiating from him like fire. You can't, he echoed, voice growing darker, edged with frustration and something dangerously close to longing. Or you won't. She swallowed hard, amber eyes dropping to the ground. I hide to survive, to protect myself. And you, she admitted, voice barely more than a whisper. If they knew, if anyone knew what I am, you're mine, he growled, cutting her words off, every syllable vibrating with claim, desire, and unshakable certainty. And I will not share you with the shadows, with lies, with fear. I want the truth, all of it. Her heart raced, the wolf within her thrumming like a drum of warning and anticipation. She had long fought this, trained herself to appear small, powerless, and obedient. But his words, his nearness, his demand, it ignited something wild inside her. The fire of revelation, of surrender, of claim. I am more than they see, she said finally, lifting her gaze to meet his, amber locking with amber. I am not just a servant. I am yours to claim, if you can accept what I truly am. The alpha's expression softened, though only briefly, before the storm returned to his eyes, anger, desire, and the raw pull of mate recognition. He reached for her, hand hovering, shaking slightly with restraint and longing. Then show me, he demanded, show me everything, no more lies, no more hiding. Her wolf howled softly beneath her ribs, pressing against the boundaries of her human form. She knew the choice was hers, to continue the charade or to let destiny, in him, see the truth unguarded and undeniable. The silence stretched between them, thick and electric. The alpha's breath brushed hers, his claim palpable, demanding, inevitable. The world narrowed until it consisted only of them, the quiet yard and the pulse of power waiting to be unleashed. And as her hands trembled in his presence, heart hammering against her chest, she realized the truth had no halfway point. Once revealed, nothing could undo it. Then, she whispered almost to herself, I will not hide any more. His lips curved into a dangerous, possessive smirk. Good, he breathed, because I will not let you. The air between them sizzled, charged with anticipation, as destiny prepared to claim its mate. Unrelenting, inevitable, and irreversible. The moon had risen high, silver and commanding, casting a luminous glow across the estate grounds. She led him to the edge of the forest, where shadows softened into moonlit whispers, the night itself seeming to hold its breath. Her wolf, coiled and restless for years, pressed against the edges of her human form, sensing that the moment had come. She began, voice trembling yet strong, her gaze locked on his. I have hidden myself for too long, not because I wanted to deceive you, but because the world would not have survived the truth. He stepped closer, eyes piercing, every inch of him radiating authority and desire. Then show me, he said, voice low, rough with expectation and something darker possessive, unrelenting, claiming, I've waited, I've watched, and I've known. You are mine. Her chest tightened at his words, heart hammering in perfect rhythm with the wolf that surged beneath her ribs. She exhaled, letting the mask she had worn for years slip away. In a heartbeat, her human form shimmered, her amber eyes glowing brighter, a subtle aura of power enveloping her. Fur shimmered along her forearms and shoulders, and her senses expanded, keen, unrestrained, unshakable. The alpha froze, caught between disbelief and awe. He had seen glimpses before, her strength, her instincts, but this was undeniable. The wolf that had coexisted with her for so long now revealed itself fully, wild, beautiful, and dangerous. And at the center of it all, his mate, the one he had unknowingly claimed years ago, stood revealed. I am yours. She whispered, voice carrying both surrender and command, as much as my wolf has always been. You are the one I was waiting for, the one my blood and my pack have called to me all my life. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for her, brushing hair from her face. Mine, he repeated, growl low, primal. His wolf stirred alongside hers, recognizing the bond they had both denied yet always known. And I claim you, now, fully, no more hiding, no more pretending. Tears pricked at her eyes, not from sadness, but from relief, from recognition, from the overwhelming truth of being seen and accepted. She had feared exposure, feared judgment, feared that even he would not understand the depth of her power. But the look in his eyes, fierce, protective, undeniably drawn, melted every doubt. They moved closer, bodies nearly touching, the air between them alive with electricity, anticipation, and raw desire. Their wolves circled, intertwined in an instinctual dance of recognition and mate claim, matching the rhythm of their hearts. "You are beautiful," he murmured, voice rough with emotion, "stronger than I ever imagined, and you are mine, mate, in every way, never doubt it again." She let herself believe it, let herself lean into the magnetic pull she had resisted for years. And as his lips brushed hers, gentle, demanding, claiming, the world seemed to collapse around them, leaving only the truth they had denied, that they belonged to each other, body and soul, human and wolf, heart and destiny. The moon bore witness, silver and eternal, as two souls, two wolves, intertwined fully for the first time. Every hesitation, every secret, every fear dissolved into the night, leaving only fire, trust, and an unbreakable bond. And in that moment, the servant who had hidden in shadows ceased to exist. What remained was a mate, claimed and claiming, unstoppable and undeniable. The estate was bathed in the soft glow of dawn, golden light, spilling across the grounds as if blessing what had transpired. The battle with rival shifters had ended, the pack stood victorious, and for the first time in years, peace, or at least a fragile semblance of it, settled over the territory. Yet she did not breathe easily. Her wolf still hummed beneath her skin, vibrant and restless, sensing the final threads of destiny being woven into place. The alpha approached her, his steps measured, commanding yet tender, as if every inch of him belonged to her as much as the bond between them belonged to him. The pack members had already sensed it. Energy shifted in the air, silent acknowledgement that the alpha had claimed his mate. But this was more than claim. It was recognition, acceptance, and a bond sealed by trials, danger, and shared instinct. "You've finally come home," he murmured, voice low, almost reverent. His hand reached for hers, and the warmth of his touch sent a thrill of certainty straight through her chest. "All of this, everything you've endured, everything we've faced, it led to this moment." She smiled, heart full, wolf quivering with delight beneath her skin. "I was always meant for this, for you." Her voice was soft, but every word carried the strength of centuries, of hidden lineage, of survival and longing. He drew her close, hands resting lightly yet possessively on her waist. Their foreheads touched, breaths mingling, hearts hammering in perfect sync. The wolves within them circled, merging in instinctive recognition, the bond now complete, unbreakable, eternal. The pack, witnessing this, gave space, yet their eyes held admiration, respect, and a spark of awe. For it was rare to see such a union alpha and mate, strength and lineage intertwined, destiny realized in flesh and spirit. "You are my heart, my mate, my pack," he whispered, lips brushing hers in a soft, claiming kiss, "and nothing will ever take you from me." Her hands threaded through his hair, drawing him closer, feeling the solidity of his presence, the heat of his claim, the inevitability of their connection. "And you are mine," she replied, amber eyes glowing with certainty, wolf and human united. In every way, for always. They stood there, entwined, the morning sun casting long shadows across the grounds, illuminating what had been forged in fire, blood, and devotion. The trials had tested them, the betrayal had tried to break them, and the battles had demanded their strength. But the bond they now shared could not be touched. The forest around the estate seemed to sigh in relief, the wind carrying whispers of destiny fulfilled. Wolves howled in celebration, a chorus of life, unity, and recognition, echoing across the territory, marking the dawn of a new era. Together they stepped forward, alpha and mate, no longer hiding, no longer restrained. Their hearts, their wolves, and their souls intertwined in a harmony that would last a lifetime. The servant who had pretended to be insignificant was gone. What remained was a mate, a warrior, a queen of the pack, and the alpha who had claimed her in body, spirit, and heart. And as the first rays of sunlight embraced them, she knew finally and irrevocably that their bond was fate, eternal, unyielding, perfect.